Hi everyone, you're so welcome. So I'm assuming today that you've joined because you are in some way feeling stuck. So whether that be in your professional life, maybe you're feeling stuck in your career, or maybe there's a particular skill that you feel like you need to work on, or some other area of your life that you'd like to move past or gain some clarity on. So that's what today is about. So the presentation title, of course, is Stuck to Unstoppable. So I'm here today to help you to develop a strategy to get yourself from feeling stuck or unclear about something to moving into clarity. So what I would ask you today is to just, in the interest of being present and fully with us all here today in the room, that you just switch off your phone or put it onto silent at least, and just to remove any or close down any applications that you might have open that could be a distraction to you during the presentation. We don't really give ourselves the time always to really think about what's keeping us stuck, and we don't always give ourselves the time of just being fully present. So in the interest of that, let's just close everything down, grab the notepads and pens, and be ready to take plenty of notes throughout today's session. So I'd love to know in the chat if you could tell me what brought you here today. So what's your reason for joining the session today? So I'm sure you read some notes within the advertisement of the session. I'd love to know. I'm just going to open up the chat and see what people are saying. So I have Matthias there. Good afternoon. Can hear you now loud and clear. Thank you. So I'd love to know what brought you here today. So what's your reason for joining the session today? It could just be one word. It might be a bigger reason. Who's going to be brave and be the first one? So I have a few now. Jörg, interest about the topic, to be prepared when I get stuck. Great, you're good right now. Perfect. Heather is learning. Great. Or learning is the reason. Anyone else? So what brought you here today? One more. Marie, I'm at a crossroads in my career. Brilliant, Marie. I hope I can help you today. Simona, hi Simona. Sometimes it can happen to feel stuck or unclear, so it's good to know about possible different views. Brilliant. So what I'd love to do today is give you a strategy, as Jörg said, maybe when you are feeling stuck, or maybe it's to help you right now to come out of to come out of stuckness. I like to use the word stuckness. I don't think it is a word. And Matthias says, trying to figure out my next move. Brilliant, Matthias. Hopefully I'll be able to help everyone today with the strategy. So some of you know me. I'm Aoife Donovan Lee. I'm a leadership specialist. My website there is on the screen. And I generally work with leaders, helping leaders to level up to high performance. So my role entails is training and executive coaching. So I've been in this game for 16 years, predominantly working in multinationals for the first 13 of those years, working across a number of people development roles. So in leadership, learning development, and executive coaching. And the last 3 years, I've been out on my own in my own business, and I've co-founded a brand new business as well, most recently with my dad. So it's an online learning platform for leaders. So back to today, what's in it for you today? Well, what I hope to give you, as I mentioned, is your clarity strategy. And in order to do that, we're going to use 3 different steps or techniques. Now, they're not in a linear order. You can use them in different ways at different times. So one of the techniques I'm going to talk to you today is about managing your inner critics. That's managing that inner critical voice that tells you that you can't. So sometimes what's keeping us stuck is when we think of a great idea, or we think of something that we actually want to do. That's the voice of your inner wisdom. And what happens is your inner critic, that little voice that tells you inside that you can't do it, comes in and slams down that idea, and you put it at the back of your mind again. And so I'm going to help you to focus on a technique for managing that inner critic, drawing out the inner wisdom. So listening to that voice that actually knows what the answer is, and then ultimately focusing on your intentions. So actually knuckling down on what is it that I want, getting really clear on that, but making sure that you're thinking about that and talking about it every single day, so that you're really focused on what exactly it is you want. So we have a couple of other comments now. Sandy is curious to find out more, and Gregory says struggling to see the goals and see what I'm trying to achieve by doing the little everyday tasks. Yeah, so Gregory, what I'll help you with today is looking at the bigger picture. we're going to go very big. We're going to go really far out into the future. I'm going to do a visualization with you guys today, and that will help you to see what are the sort of things that you want to have present in your life. What are the ways that you want to live your life, and then bringing it right back down to the shorter term, and breaking down your goals into smaller tasks. Now, some of these pieces or these techniques and actions that I talked to you about today, they're bigger than this workshop, so there will be a bit of homework. So for some of these slides, I'm going to be asking you to take some photos and take some of the actions away, because there's a bit more thinking involved and more time needed to dedicate to these things than we have in the workshop. So there are bigger things to think about, and I get that. But what I'd love for you to have at the end of the day is to know I've got some actions to start to point me in the right direction. So why am I qualified to talk to you about this today? Well, it's because I am you. I was very much stuck a few years back. So it was 2018, and I was working for eBay at the time. I was in a really good job, well paid. For the on the outside, it looked like everything was very good. I had my baby was just over a year old, married to my husband Barry, and I just felt like there was something more, something was missing. I felt like the work that I was doing there were parts of it that were fulfilling, but for the most part, I did end up dreading going into work every day. And there were a number of reasons for that. But the work wasn't suiting me anymore, and it wasn't fitting what I felt like where I should be in my career at that point. And ultimately, I knew that I didn't want to work for someone else right up until retirement. I knew that that was what I didn't want. I didn't know what working for myself looked like. I didn't know if I wanted to go into a completely different business. Did I want to? I was kind of trying to think of some brilliant startup idea, and the answer was staring me right in the face. And often that's what I'm saying to you at the start, is that we don't sit down and give ourselves that time to really think through what it is that we want. And so it might seem obvious to me now, being out of it 4 years later, what I wanted and where my skills are really best placed, and what my business should look like. At the time, I was just in this cycle of feeling like I was so unhappy, and I needed a way out of it. Now, my way out of it was to actually just decide to finally work with a coach. And so I joined a group coaching program with my coach, who's still my coach today, Kerry Lyons. And so Kerry Lyons works with she works with new business owners, people who are either in the very early stages of setting up a business, or just like me, trying to formulate an idea. So I learned a lot from working with Kerry. I just basically thought, I just want to throw money at the problem and help me through it, which I knew was going to get me there quicker. But I'm going to give you some tools today that you can absolutely take and use yourself, and apply them in the best way. So I learned a lot from working with Kerry. What I wanted to learn was, what were the stories that I was telling myself that were keeping me stuck? So there was no reason why I couldn't set up a business with the skills that I already had, but I kept thinking, like, I have to have some brilliant idea to set up a business. I need loads of money behind me. My husband at the time wasn't all for me giving up work and setting up a business, with us having no income from my side of the house for God knows how many years, because anyone who set up a business knows that you're probably not going to make money for the first bit of time. So that, he wasn't fully on board either. So I had a few hurdles, but there were loads of stories that I was telling myself as to why I should stay stuck. And there were loads of different reasons for that. This is probably things that you're telling yourself right now that are keeping you in this stuckness. So like I'd mentioned a few minutes ago, when you come up with a great idea, you think, oh, I'd love to do that course, or I'd love to start a business, or I'd love to move into this particular profession, or I definitely want to go for that next promotion. But then what happens straight away? Your inner critic, your voice in your mind, starts to come up with all these different reasons why you can't do it. And even now, listening to me talking, well, that was okay for Aoife. She went and she had the money to pay for a coach. So that's what got her out of that. So that inner critic will say those things to you. Well, it's okay for them. They don't have my circumstances. But I'm here today to help you to manage that voice, recognize those stories that are keeping you stuck, and try to find a way to manage yourself through them. So that's what I did with the coaching. And since then, I've been able to recognize that inner critical voice and not let it stop me. And so much so that I am now, as I mentioned at the start, running my own business, co-founded a second business. I'm earning more than I could have hoped for at this point, and more than what I was on at Aoife, which is amazing. And I just, there was a point when I was finishing up at eBay that I just couldn't have seen it, but I had to maintain that self-belief. And I'm going to talk to you today and hopefully give you a technique to help you to do the same. So imagine that. Imagine you didn't have that voice of self-doubt there anymore, holding you back. Imagine what you could be able to do if you didn't have that doubtful voice, continuing to quash those desires and what could be possible for you. So I have 3 steps to talk to you about today. I'm going to give you a technique for shushing your inner critic, just putting it down. We can't control thought. Your thoughts are going to come in, but it's what you do with those thoughts and how you manage them. That's what's going to make you successful. I'm going to help you to draw forth your inner mentor. So to actually help you to identify what that inner voice of wisdom is and what it's trying to tell you, and how to listen to it. And then finally, we'll talk about some goal setting. So focusing on what it is that you really want, but intentionally every day. It takes daily practice of continuously looking at what it is that you want. What have I said that I want? And what am I doing every day to move the needle towards those goals? So let's talk about your inner critic then. So this horrible, creepy mask represents your inner critic. So it's the voice of self-doubt. It's the internal chatter that tells you a number of harsh lies about yourself, such as you're not good enough and you're not smart enough. So I'd love you to tell me in the chat, what does your inner critic tell you when you're coming up with some of these thoughts on where you might like to go, how you might like it to change, what behaviors you might like to change, or what you might like to do differently? What is it telling you? Tell me in the chat. So I hear a lot of not good enough, or belittling achievements as well. So if you've achieved something, oh, that was down to luck, or anyone could have done that, masters, or whatever it is. Heather, don't have the endurance to see a project accepted through to the end. Absolutely, Heather. We all have that. Well, I certainly have that as well. Yet I've proven time and time again that I can see a project through to the end. It's just that sometimes we've built up these unrealistic standards that we've set for ourselves. And a coach can help you to basically work through that story that you're telling yourself to identify, when did that start? And then helping you to dispel that myth. Thanks, Heather. So Simona, are your skills enough on this particular topic activity? Absolutely, Simona. There's a brilliant book by Tara Mohr, T-A-R-A, and her last name is M-O-H-R, called Playing Big. And it's all about how we hold ourselves back from moving to the next level. So when we're just about to break into the next level of our career or a certain area of our lives, how we hold ourselves back and say, oh no, I just need another year of experience. Whereas actually on paper, if you look at the experience that you have plenty there to go on. But why is it that we tell ourselves that? Thanks, Simona. Matthias, don't believe you can achieve something. Tall poppy syndrome in a nutshell. Tall poppy syndrome, is that like imposter syndrome? Thanks, Matthias. So I don't have the name, but it's registered as iPhone. It's too hard. Yeah. And just it's like the voice is just trying to keep you safe. It's too hard. Don't bother. You're not qualified enough. Thanks, Amanda. I get that one all the time. Marie, not experienced enough. Don't have relevant skills needed. Absolutely. Can see a lot of similarities in the patterns of these. Gregory, I always overreach my energy levels and overestimate my ability. Yeah, I've suffered from that as well, where I try to take on too much. It's like an overachieving gene that I have. I want to be the best, and I try and take on too much, and then I end up getting to the point of almost burnout. Sandy, who would be interested in my product idea? Absolutely, Sandy. Yeah, you put it down, you quash it for fear of being visible and out there. So thanks, Aoife. Giovanna, yeah, for me, it's constantly waiting for the perfect moment and then never starting because I'm not there yet. Yeah, there is no perfect moment. So you think, oh, when this happens, when this part of my life finishes up, and then I'll have loads of time, but you never have the time to do it. It's never the right moment. That's a brilliant point. Thank you. And so Saoirse has a quick reminder in there. Alan, compare myself to others. Oh, it's just a vicious cycle, isn't it, Alan, where you're comparing yourself. You compare the success that you've achieved to someone else's. But it's like apples and oranges. And actually, when I listen to my inner critic, I've got I've got an overachieving mother and an overachieving father. My mother was an overachiever in the household, so she's a stay-at-home mom for many years. There's no way that I could ever have my house the way my mother had the house and the way she managed the house, because she didn't have a job, like an outside job as well. That's not to say anything about the work she did. She threw herself into our house and she managed it to such a high level. But I could never compare to that. It's just a completely different set of standards. And then my dad on the other side is in the same line of work as me. So, but he had his wife at home looking after the kids and doing all the house stuff. So I always have these unrealistic standards. So I compare myself, where were they at this stage? But actually it's pointless. It's and I'll explain where the inner critic comes from in a moment, but it makes sense as to why you're comparing yourself to others on at different levels. Matthias, here you go. Regarding the tall poppy syndrome, brilliant. I'll have to have a look at that. That's a new one for me. Thanks, Matthias. So we all grapple with this voice of the inner critic, and you've seen all the comments from everyone, similar ones to yourself. As you're sitting here today, thinking of what comes up for you when you think of the inner critic and what it's telling you. But when you look at someone who has pushed past boundaries and who has challenged themselves, maybe someone you admire, they have that voice too, but they've somehow learned to manage it, and they push through it, and they go and do it anyway. So it's like feel the fear and do it anyway, if you've heard of that phrase before. So where does it come from? Well, scientists believe that it comes from your primitive brain, a part of your brain that's associated with your fight or flight response. And originally, it's a part of your brain that's attuned to danger. So it looks out for anything that might be uncomfortable or dangerous, which back in caveman times served its purpose, as well as trying to make meaning of the world around us. So that part of your brain is trying to make psychological meaning or sense making of what's going on around us. So it takes in situations around us or potential situations and tries to dissect them and understand them. And sometimes what that looks like is that it flags a particular idea or a potential situation as dangerous, and it wants to keep us safe. And so that's one way of looking at your inner critic. When you hear that voice saying, no, you're not smart enough, or look at this person, look what they've done, you could never do what they do, or no one will be interested in that idea. That's your primitive brain or your inner critic trying to keep you safe. And a lot of these beliefs were formed from childhood. So for up until the age of 7, from birth until the age of 7, we're listening to our parents, generally our parents or our caregivers' opinions of us, how they see us, and we take them on then as our own. And we start to believe those stories about ourselves as to what they thought about us. So whether they be helpful or unhelpful. So I was always told I was a very sensitive child. So that was something that stayed with me throughout, right up until adulthood. Even now, if I just slightly go off the handle with my family, it's, oh, there she is, sensitive. So these stories stay with you from childhood, or they could be formed through bad experiences that you've had with, say, an influential character in your life. So a boss, So a bad boss at some point in your life who told you that you were no good at something, or a teacher back in school, you're stupid. And that has stayed with you. And so you believe you're stupid. Or maybe someone has told you, God, you're not really good at finishing things, are you? And so that's stayed with you. That, you know, might have been one example from your early 20s when you didn't finish a project and that boss didn't manage you in the right way and didn't manage you through that process in the right way. And so just gave you negative feedback and didn't help you. And that stayed with you now as something that you believe is true. So you can see the impact of that. So what I'm trying to help you to understand now is where the voice is coming from and what could you have had had you known how to manage this inner critical voice all those years ago. I always think I definitely would be the owner of some kind of a sports car. If I'd learned to manage it so many years ago, all the businesses that weren't started, all the ideas unshared, all the opinions not shared, what's it held you back from? Now, I'm joking about this, of course. This is a material thing. It doesn't necessarily equate to success. But I do believe that I could have had a great many other successes in lots of different areas of my life had I learned how to manage this a little bit sooner. But the good news is it is all good. We've got tools for you today to help you to manage this inner critic. So the first one I'm going to show you today is when you hear that voice, it's important to first of all recognize it. So like I'd mentioned a few minutes ago, thoughts come and go, you can't control them. But what you can do is acknowledge it. So when you hear that inner critical voice complaining to you about something, saying you can't do something, you're not good enough, recognize it. So it's about, first of all, acknowledging it. Oh, there's my inner critic. And how you create distance between you, the true you, and the inner critic is by reframing what the inner critic has said. So the inner critic might say, you're not smart enough. You just reframe it in your mind as, my inner critic suggests that I'm not smart enough. Another technique that people use is by recognizing that's my primitive brain trying to keep me safe. Oh, there it is, trying to keep me safe from this idea that I'm about to explore. Thank you for that. Let's go and explore the idea anyway. There's no point in trying to battle with it and say, if you hear it say, I'm not smart enough, and then you say, no, I am smart enough, because what's it going to do? It's going to come back and say, no, you're not. So you're just going through this little battle in your mind. So just recognize it, create distance by saying, my inner critic suggests that, finish the sentence, and become curious with it. So become curious about, where did that come from? So me thinking I'm not smart enough, give yourself some time to think about it. So take that away as an exercise. Be curious about those ones that come up for you quite often. Spend some time thinking about it. Where did that come from? Did it come from school? Did it come from a parent? Did it come from a poor leadership in the past? So that's the first method. Is that useful for people? Just let me know in the chat if you think that would be useful. Not to give it too much energy, trying to battle your inner critic, but just using a tool like that. Giovanna says, yes, brilliant. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a very short visualization. Now you can close your eyes for this, or you can keep them open. But I'm going to go through this, and this is going to help you to connect into your inner mentor. So your inner mentor is that voice of wisdom that is within you, that has the answers, but potentially you tend to quash it. So you can turn your cameras off, your cameras are on if you feel more comfortable doing that. Again, close your eyes or leave them open, whatever is comfortable for you. So I'm going to guide you through this visualization. We're going to go meet your inner mentor right now. So start by sitting comfortably with your feet flat on the floor and uncross your legs. Place your hands on your lap, facing up or down, whatever is most comfortable for you. Begin by bringing your attention into your body. We spend so much of our day in our heads, but not enough time listening to our bodies. Notice your body seated wherever you're seated, feeling the weight of your body on the chair, on the floor. Take in a deep breath, bring in more oxygen, enlivening the body, and as you exhale, have a sense of relaxing. Now notice your feet on the floor. Notice the sensations of your feet touching the floor and the weight and pressure vibration, and the heat. Notice your legs against the chair, pressure, heaviness, lightness. Notice your back against the chair. Now bring your attention to your stomach area. If your stomach is tense or tight, let it soften and take a breath. Now notice your hands. Are your hands tense or tight? See if you can allow them to soften. Now notice your arms. Feel any sensation in your arms. Let your shoulders be soft. Notice your neck and throat. Let them be soft and relax. Soften your jaw. Let your face and facial muscles be soft. And notice your whole body present. Take one more breath. Now focus on the center of your forehead, between your eyes. Imagine a beam of light on your forehead. Notice the color of it. Imagine this beam of light stretching up through the ceiling of where you are, up through the roof. The beam begins to carry you upwards, up through the roof. As you travel upwards, notice the beauty of the sky. As the beam continues to carry you upwards, you look down to see the view of your whole city. Now notice the whole region below. Travel upwards and upwards and upwards until you are in blue-black space, silent and dark. Notice now that there is another beam of light next to the one you are standing on. Notice what the color and quality of that beam is. Notice that this beam also stretches down to the earth below, to where you have just come from. This beam, however, is 20 years into the future. Go ahead and step onto that other beam of light. This beam carries you down to the earth below. Notice the earth starting to become closer to you. Enjoy passing through the clouds as you make your way downward. As you begin to get closer to the earth, start to notice you're going to the home of your future self 20 years into the future. What part of the world are you in? Continue traveling down the beam the whole way until it takes you to the dwelling place of your future self. It drops you right outside your future home. Take a look around. What is it like? What does it feel like? Notice that there's a house. Start to make your way towards the door. Your future self is coming to the door to meet you and welcome you. Take in their presence and their face. Let them invite you in. Notice what the inside of your house is like. What's on the walls? What's the feeling in the house? Your future self offers you something to eat and something to drink. They bring you to one of their favorite spots in the house for a chat. They're present and ready to listen to you and share with you. You sit down and ask, what has mattered most to you over the past 20 years? I'll say that again. You ask, what has mattered most to you over the past 20 years? They may answer you in words, or just with a feeling, or a facial expression. Listen to what they have to say. And you ask, what do I need to know to get from where I am now to where you are? What do I need to know to get from where I am now to where you are? Listen to their answer. Bring your visit with them to a close, knowing you can come back to them at any time. You thank them for their guidance and wisdom Notice as you're bringing the conversation to a close, they have a parting gift for you. Let them give that gift to you. Make your way out of the house and find your way back to the beam. Step onto the beam and let it carry you again. Watch their home getting smaller and smaller beneath you as you travel all the way back up to blue-black space. Notice your old beam is still there, ready to take you back. Step onto that beam and let it bring you back to Earth. See the world getting closer, see your region, see your city from a bird's eye view. Let your beam carry you right back down to where you started. Now become aware of your body. Be aware of your whole body as best you can. Take a breath, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes or come back into the virtual room. If you want to take any notes of what you noticed within that visualization, so any of the answers to your questions that your future self, which I like to think is the voice of your inner wisdom, is telling to you, what were the answers? What was the parting gift? So there is a little bit of homework that you have to take away. So you will get a copy of these slides. So if you're looking at your screen again, if you want to take a photo of that screen there that I have up at the moment, what did you see? What guidance did they give to you? What gift did they give to you? And anything that you've learned from this experience, what it is that you really want. Now, you may not still be clear on what it is that you want, but what I'm trying to get you to get to a point is of what you see in your future, like with the kind of lifestyle that you want to have by 20 years time. And so then starting to work back from there. And we're going to do this in a moment where we work back from there to understand what is it in the shorter term, then to get to that level, that lifestyle. What is it that you need to be doing in the here and now to get to there? So I hope everybody's ready for me to move on. If you've taken a photo of that, great. You will get a copy of these slides anyway. I hope that was useful for you. I know that not everybody is able to really engage in a visualization, but I hope even if you kept your eyes open for it, that you can see how that could benefit you just starting to think about your future self. Simona says ready. Thanks, Simona. So you can visit that mentor, your inner mentor, anytime you need guidance. So before a difficult conversation, ask, what would they say? Before, if you have to make a difficult decision, ask, which road will move me closer to becoming the person that I saw in the visualization. So if we move now into step number 3, so how you're going to be able to focus now on what it is that you really want is by setting goals. So getting really clear on your goals and your why. But to really fulfill your goals, you've got to have a compelling reason why. Why are you doing it in the first place? Why is it important for you to identify what you really want and to then iron out those goals and get really clear on those goals and fulfill those goals? So first of all, we're going to have a look at some goal setting. And again, this is a piece of homework because it is within the time frame of the workshop today. It's something that requires a bit more thought. So I'd love you to just take a photo of this, the screen that you see, to take away. So in 5 years' time, if we work back from that 20-year vision, and you may not know exactly what you're going to be doing in 20 years' time, but certainly you might get a snapshot of the lifestyle that you want to enjoy and how peaceful is that person? How have they worked towards that peace? So 5 years' time, what does success look like? And again, when I started to do this with my coach a number of years ago, I didn't know exactly what the business looked like. I just knew that I was working for myself and I knew the kinds of activities that I wanted to be doing during the day. I knew that I wanted to be able to do the school run. I knew that I wanted to be able to spend time after school with my children. I knew that I wanted to have time for myself during my day. So I knew there were certain elements that I wanted to build in. So you can start to build up that kind of a picture. And then working back from 5 years' time, what does 1 year's time look like? So in 1 year's time, what would success look like? And then breaking that down quarter by quarter, month by month, week by week, breaking that down into tangible bite-sized chunks as to what are the needle moving tasks that are going to get you there. And it's about working on this every single day. So I write out my goal every day. I break my year down into quarterly chunks. So I've got a 90-day goal going all the time. And so any tasks that I'm focused on, I focus on 2 to 3 tasks a day that are going to move me closer to that goal. And what that's doing is that's like a sat nav, that's setting the journey up in my mind for my subconscious brain so that every day I'm working towards it. My brain is looking out for opportunities to help me to get there all the time. So it might sound like a bit of a chore, but once you get into the routine of it, it's quite simply, it just becomes part of your day. And you get to then focus on what it is that you really and truly want. Final piece of today is just to think about your why. Why is it that you really want this? And so get to the real reason why, and that's going to be your motivation for getting up in the morning and fulfilling the actions that you need to fulfill to bring you closer to those goals. So finally, we've looked at shushing your inner critic. I've given you a tool for tapping into your inner mentor. So asking that inner mentor for guidance, what would they do, and listening to that voice when you're feeling like you're stuck or there's your inner critic is talking over it. Remember to just peel back that inner critic. You know what's happening there now. So listen to the inner mentor, that great crazy idea that comes up first. That's your inner mentor. And then getting crystal clear on what it is that you want, but then focusing in on what you want. And even if you don't know what you want, just taking action to discover. Any action will spur you on and drive you forward, and you'll eventually get to the point where you've got some clarity.